This meeting is being recorded.
Okay. Andrea, could you translate that?
Donc, le meeting sera enregistré pour les personnes qui n'ont pas eu le temps de se connecter depuis 13 heures. Donc, voilà.
So we would go ahead and start the presentation, but as people continue to join, please send a greeting in the chat. As you continue to join, send a greeting in the chat. Thank you.
Alors, pour toutes les personnes qui viennent de se connecter, vous devez vous présenter dans le chat.
Right. Okay, actually, one other thing before I go into that, as we go through the presentation, you can ask questions either by asking on the chat, or you can also unmute yourself and ask the question directly.
Alors, pendant la présentation, vous avez la possibilité d'activer votre micro ou juste d'écrire votre question dans le chat.
All right. So I will start by introducing the organizing or coordinating team. The first person there is me. My name is Kene Mbanisi. I'm the coordinator for the Engineers League.
Donc, il s'est présenté, il a dit qu'il s'appelle Kene Mbanisi et qu'il est le coordinateur de la Ligue ingénieur. Et moi, c'est Andrea. Je suis le admin lead pour cette année 2023 Engineers League.
Andrea, can you say that in English?
Okay, so my name is Andrea, and I will be your admin lead for this 2023 edition.
Right, thank you, Andrea. Andrea has been so wonderful in helping to organize all the invites and emails and everything. So it's great to have you with us, Andrea. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have other people who are on the team, but are not here. So we have two engineers who worked with me on developing the challenge, Secure and Evans.
Donc, il y a deux ingénieurs qui nous ont aidé à développer le challenge qui ne sont pas présents aujourd'hui. Donc, il y a Sikiru et Evans.
And interesting fact that they both participated in Park 2 years ago. And so it was great to see that they developed so much that now they're actually able to, develop challenges for the competition.
Alors, le fun fact, je dirais l'anecdote, c'est que Sikiru et Evans ont participé dans les précédentes éditions de Parc et c'est vraiment intéressant de les avoir comme ingénieurs pour cette saison.
All right, and then we have the Park leadership, Dr. Sidi Ndao, who is the founder of Park, and Ada, who is the coordinator.
Alors, Park Leadership, nous avons Dr. Sidi Ndao, qui est le fondateur de Park, et Ada Tapili, qui est la coordinatrice.
All right, so now we want to meet you. We want to meet the teams. And you are the reason we're here to running this competition. So we want to meet you. Go ahead.
Alors, nous voulons vous connaître et vous êtes la raison pour laquelle nous sommes là aujourd'hui et nous voulons mieux vous connaître.
All right. So how we will do this is I will call the name of your country. And we have over 22 countries represented in our for this year. I know that not everybody is around in this meeting. So, but when I call your country, I'd like you to unmute yourself and say hello.
Alors, on a plus de 22 pays ici représentés et il va citer un pays, chaque pays littéralement sur la carte, et il voudrait que vous désactiviez votre micro pour dire bonjour dans votre langue locale.
Okay. So let's hope this all works nice. I'm very excited to see how much spread that park has. All right, so we'll start with, I think this is Cape Verde. Oh, wait, sorry. All right, Cape Verde, teams from Cape Verde, say hello.
Hello, my name is
Hello.
Sonia. Nice to see
You
you.
are-
My name is
yeah,
Sonia, and I am represent the Smart UNICEF team.
All right, thank you. Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay, so I don't know, something happened to Zoom. Okay, I'm glad the meeting did not end. All right, thank you, Naya. So because we have so many teams and so many countries, I would like you to just say hello. You don't have to, share your name because, we might have multiple teams from each country. All right, so just say hello. So everybody can just say hello at the same time, and then we move on to the next country. All right, thank you. Well, this is good to hear from you, Naya.
Okay.
Could you
Donc,
repeat? Yeah, go ahead.
à la mention du nom de votre pays, il voudrait que vous ouvrez juste votre micro pour dire bonjour. Vous n'avez pas forcément besoin d'ouvrir la caméra et vous présenter. Juste dire bonjour dans votre local language, votre langue locale, et pour qu'on puisse avancer.
All right. So teams from Senegal, say hello. Any teams from Senegal? Maybe no team from Senegal. There are teams from Senegal, maybe they're not here. All right, teams from Liberia, say hello. Team. All right, teams from Guinea. Teams from Côte d'Ivoire. Okay, teams from Ghana.
Hello.
Hello, yes. Welcome, teams from Ghana. All right, thank you. Teams from Mali.
Hello.
Hello, welcome, teams from Mali. Algeria.
Hello.
Hello, welcome, great to have you. Nigeria.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, my people. Hello.
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 All right.
Hello.
Welcome. Thank you. Teams from Cameroon.
Hello.
Hello, welcome. Teams from Chad. Any teams from Chad on the call? Maybe not yet. All right, teams from DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo.
Hello.
Welcome.
Bonjour.
All right, teams from South Africa. Any teams from South Africa on the call? Teams from South Africa? All right, teams from Lesotho.
Hello.
Hello, welcome. Wonderful. All right, teams from Zimbabwe.
Hello.
Hello. Wonderful. Welcome. All right, teams from Rwanda.
Hello.
Teams from Rwanda, welcome. All right, teams from Malawi. Okay, maybe not on the call. Teams from Uganda.
Hello.
Uganda, Benjamin, hi, welcome. All right, teams from Kenya. Any teams from Kenya? All right, teams from Tanzania. All right, all right. So that's really wonderful. You see, we have people, we have teams and robotics lovers, robotics enthusiasts from all over Africa participating this year, which is wonderful. So welcome everyone. Welcome everyone.
Donc, on a plusieurs teams, plusieurs teams africaines, donc on est vraiment heureux de vous voir aujourd'hui ici.
We hope that next year or sometime in the very short future, we'll have a dot in every country. We'll have a team from, not even just a team, multiple teams from every country in Africa collaborating, working together to develop robotics on the continent.
Donc, on espère que dans les années à venir, nous ayons un peu plus de points sur la carte, c'est-à-dire plus de pays africains participant à la compétition pour le développement de notre continent.
All right, well, great. So let's move on. We'll move on. All right, so before we delve into some other details, I want to highlight something very important, okay? And this is that the focus of the Engineers League is to upskill Africa in robotics.
Alors, avant de commencer, je voudrais highlight, je dirais, quelque chose de vraiment important, c'est de renforcer les compétences de l'Afrique dans le domaine de la robotique.
All right, and so what that means is that our goal is really to have everybody who is participating, all the teams, all the participants, whether you have 10 years of experience in robotics or you have 1 week of experience in robotics, we want you to have an engaging time and we want you to build your skill and competence in robotics through this competition.
Alors, on aimerait bien que les équipes qui aient peu de compétences et celles qui ont plus de compétences puissent collaborer ensemble pour avoir un peu plus de connaissances par rapport à la robotique.
Right. So even though it is a competition, we are doing less of competing, but more of collaborating, right? Working together, learning from each other, so that we can all develop.
Alors, même si c'est une compétition, on met plus l'accent sur la collaboration que sur le fait de compétir contre chaque équipe.
All right, yes. And also just to note that a little bit different from the previous years of PAC, we actually are going to be running more workshops and providing more support because, again, we want this to be a developmental experience for every participant.
Alors, cette édition sera un peu différente des précédentes parce qu'on voudrait avoir un peu plus d'ateliers pour améliorer les capacités de chacune des équipes comme on peut.
All right. So all of this to say that if you're here and you are feeling like, oh, I don't really know programming, oh, I've never really taken any robotics class or anything in university or whatnot, you are in the right place. This is not only for experts or people who have a lot of experience, anybody who is willing to engage, collaborate, and learn will enjoy this experience and have a lot of rich things to learn about robotics.
Alors, ce n'est pas forcément une compétition juste pour des professionnels ou pour des personnes vraiment avancées en programming. On voudrait bien que cette expérience soit inclusive pour que tout le monde puisse partager et apprendre de chacun.
All right. So now we would go through the challenge description, all right, where I will introduce what the theme of this year is and what we're looking to do.
Alors, nous allons rentrer sur la partie de description du défi pour expliquer en fait à chaque team qu'est-ce qu'ils auront à faire.
And now I just want to remind us that if you have questions, you can go in the chat and put your questions. And you could also, if you prefer, you can unmute yourself and ask a question. Feel free to do that anytime during this session. We would have specific key question and answer time, but please feel free to ask a question anytime as we go along.
Donc, sentez-vous libre de mettre des questions dans le chat ou bien de désactiver votre micro à chaque fois que vous avez une question, même si on aura un temps spécifique pour les questions-réponses, mais à tout moment, si vous ne comprenez pas quelque chose, vous pouvez toujours vous taper dans le chat ou désactiver votre micro.
All right. So the theme of this year is agriculture technology. Okay, and the focus is on applying robotics and AI technologies to change the way that we cultivate our food in Africa.
Donc, le thème de cette année, c'est technologie agricole. Nous voulons appliquer la robotique et l'intelligence artificielle pour révolutionner la façon dont nous cultivons les aliments.
All right, so the Engineers League is focusing on inviting teams to develop software tools and implement them on robots that can be used to improve sustainable agriculture for the future of Africa.
Donc, le focus des Engineers Team, c'est de développer des softwares et des applications, des outils qui puissent permettre à l'implémentation de la robotique pour améliorer l'agriculture de l'Afrique dans le futur.
All right. And we will be working with agricultural robots. And the agricultural robots, there are different applications that you can apply with agricultural robots today.
Donc, nous allons travailler sur des robots agricoles autonomes et il y a différentes applications que vous pouvez utiliser pour les robots agricoles.
With an agricultural robot, you can do weed detection and weed management. You can do precision agriculture. You can do crop monitoring. You can do crop yield estimation. You can do many things using this autonomous system.
Donc, en utilisant ces robots agricoles autonomes, vous pouvez faire de la surveillance des cultures. Vous pouvez faire de l'agriculture de précision, gérer automatiquement la gestion automatisée des mauvaises herbes et l'estimation du rendement de vos cultures.
All right, and so our goal in the competition is to expose you to how to develop systems for agricultural robots to perform some of these tasks.
Donc, le but de ces compétitions, c'est de vous permettre de développer des systèmes d'agriculture robotique pour pallier à ces tâches.
All right, so specifically, we'll be focusing on two tasks. The first task is autonomous field navigation.
Donc, pour cette compétition, on va se focus sur deux différents types de tâches. La première tâche, c'est la navigation autonome dans les champs.
All right, so that means that we have a robot that can drive through the farm safely without harming the crops and able to drive accurately through the crop rows without harming the crops.
Donc, ces robots peuvent se déplacer librement dans la ferme sans avoir à détruire des plantes sur leur passage.
All right, and the second task is on weed detection. All right, so if you have worked on a farm or you know anything about farming, weeds are not good for your crops. They compete with nutrients. So it is very important to remove the weeds, but first you need to know what are the weeds. How can we distinguish weeds from crop?
Donc, pour ceux qui ont l'habitude des fermes, vous savez que les mauvaises herbes n'aident pas forcément à la culture facile des récoltes. Donc, la deuxième tâche sera sur la détection des mauvaises herbes afin de régler cela.
All right, so we will be using concepts like computer vision to teach a robot how to distinguish between a weed and a crop on the farm.
Donc, vous allez utiliser le concept de la vision ordinateur afin d'apprendre au robot comment faire la différence entre une mauvaise herbe et une herbe et une récolte littéralement.
All right. So remember, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them as we go along. At this point, before I actually move on to the next thing, does anybody have any questions? Happy to answer any questions about the challenge description.
Donc, est-ce que quelqu'un aura une question?
Okay,
Yes, Andrea. Oh, yes, sir.
my name. Yeah, will you
Go ahead, sir. Hello? Hello?
Hello. I have a question.
All right, Emmanuel, just give it a moment. So Professor Bolu, if I think maybe your audio might not be working.
Okay.
Okay, yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Please, can you share the slides at the end of the presentation?
Yes.
I have about 10 of my members are not here.
Yes, sir. Yes. I
Thank
will.
You,
I will share the slides.
All
right. So Andrea, let me repeat. I will repeat the question so that you can translate. So the question was about if we will be providing the slides to everyone here. The answer is yes, we will be providing the slides. So I think Ifeanyi, you're also asking that same question in the chat. So yes, we'll be providing the slides.
Ok, donc le slide, c'est-à-dire la présentation, sera disponible après le meeting. Donc, vous pouvez toujours le demander sur le Slack et il vous enverra la présentation.
All right, thank you. Emmanuel, do you want to ask your question?
Yes, thank you. I wanted to know if the competition is going to be virtual or it's going to be also maybe hybrid, virtual and physical, or only virtual.
All right. I will repeat the question and then I will answer it so that Andrea, you can translate. So the question is whether the competition will be virtual or hybrid or in person. And the answer I will give in the next slide, okay? I'll provide the answer in the next slide. So just hold on 1 minute. I'll provide the answer in the next slide.
Donc, la question d'Emmanuel, c'était de savoir si la compétition sera virtuelle ou bien juste présentielle. Donc, Kenya a dit que l'explication se fera sur le slide suivant.
Thank you. Any other questions so far from what I've presented about the theme of the challenge? Any questions?
Est-ce que vous avez d'autres questions avant qu'on commence?
For me, I have two questions. First question is that how can we build the first tax, the first tax, and the second tax?
Okay, I didn't fully get the question. Are you French speaking? Do you prefer to speak in French or are you?
Yep. I said, what is the method to build the first tax, the tax one?
Okay. All right.
Yes.
All right. I think I understand now. All right. So I will repeat the question and respond. So the question, if I understand well, is asking what are the methods that you'll be using to solve task 1 and task 2. All right. And this is a very good, important question. I will not go into detail on that question in this meeting because we have subsequent workshops that will focus on introducing you to some of these concepts. Okay. So I don't want to go too much into technical description about the methods in this meeting. All right.
Alors, la question était de savoir quelle était la méthode appropriée pour la tâche numéro 1. Donc, Kenny a dit que ce ne sera pas possible de le développer forcément pour ce meeting-là, mais dans les meetings à venir, il pourra rentrer plus en détail sur l'explication de chaque tâche.
All right. All right. Well, that's a good question. That's a good question. Did another person have a question? I think I heard some audio from somebody else. Okay, yes, somebody's raising hand. Please go ahead. Please go ahead. Richard, please go ahead.
If you can just say,
oh, hello,
like
sir.
the second task, you say we are going to use computer vision, okay,
Yes.
to differentiate. The first one, if you can just mention the word, not details. What are we going to use?
All right. All right. So for the first task, essentially we would be, okay, let me repeat the question actually. I think maybe the question might have been clear in English. So the question is asking specifically about task 1, what are some general terms or ideas to solve the task, okay? And okay, Andrea, I can go ahead and translate that before I give the answer.
Alors, je pense que la question était d'expliquer un petit peu, pas forcément en rentrant en profondeur, les tâches qui nous sont présentées.
All right, so generally in robot systems have 3 components. They have sensing, they have what you can call thinking or planning, and then they have acting. Okay, so sense, think, and act.
Alors, le système d'un robot, de manière générale, a 3 composants. Vous avez le sensing, ce que vous pouvez appeler la planification, et ensuite vous avez le acting.
All right, and so in this challenge, what you need to do is the robot that will give you in simulation will have sensors. It will have a number of sensors. It will have a camera. It will have another sensor called a 2D LiDAR scanner, a scanner sensor, and it also has GPS.
Donc, pour ce robot, vous aurez besoin de capteurs, un bon nombre de capteurs, de caméras et de capteurs de lumière, GPS, etc.
All right, and using these sensors, we will then have you to process the sensor information to know where is the robot and how do we move the robot through the sides of the crop row without damaging the crop. So that is the think part. So the sense part is collecting sensor data. The think or plan part is processing that information to have a good plan for how to move. And then the act part is sending commands to your motors of the robot to move.
Alors,
Was that too long, Andrea? Should I
en
repeat it?
utilisant les capteurs. Yeah, it's really too.
It is long, yes. Okay, so I already explained the sense, I think you did. With the information from the sensors, you will come up with a plan on how to navigate in the farm.
Ok, avec les informations des capteurs, vous pourrez savoir comment vous déplacer dans la ferme.
And then using that plan, you will generate your actions, meaning that could be like a velocity of the robot as it's moving. So you give velocity commands to the robot's motors to move.
Donc, avec ces données, vous pourrez générer un peu plus de données par rapport à la vélocité et comment se déplacera le robot.
Right. So the general framework of this idea is called robot navigation. Okay, it's called robot navigation. And there are many methods of applying robot navigation based on what sensors you have, what actuators you have.
Donc, le général topic, le thème général de le thème général de la navigation robotique ça s'appelle la navigation robot. I don't know
Yeah, robot navigation. I think that's
how
okay.
to translate this word.
That's
Navigation, yeah.
fine. Robot navigation. Okay, great. Any other questions? These are all very good questions. So I know we're all excited to see how can we solve this? How can we do it? So that's really good. Are there any other questions before we move on to some details about the competition format?
Est-ce que vous aurez d'autres questions avant qu'on avance dans les slides?
All right. I think we had a good number of questions. So let's move on. All right. So now we'll talk about the competition format, and I will highlight some of the things. I'll answer the question that I think Emmanuel might have asked or somebody had asked. I'll answer that question now.
Donc, on va passer à au format de la compétition.
All right. So this is the timeline. Registration started on March 8th, and today is the kickoff of the simulation phase.
Alors, la compétition a commencé le 8 mars par les inscriptions et nous sommes là maintenant dans la phase de lancement de la phase simulation.
All right. So in other words, we have two phases. One phase is the simulation phase, meaning that this will be completely virtual. You can do this from where you are right now. You don't need to travel anywhere. This phase will be completely virtual. All right.
Alors, on aura deux phases littéralement pour la compétition. La compétition virtuelle que vous pourrez faire directement dans votre pays et la seconde partie qu'il va appeler tout de suite.
All right. And so in this phase, you will be building and testing your software and your solutions in simulation only.
Donc, dans cette partie, vous aurez la période de développement où vous devrez construire le logiciel et le tester en simulation.
All right, so this phase will last for about 2 months between now, today, we're kicking off, and May 30th, okay? On May 30th, you will submit your solution for the 2 tasks, and then we will evaluate your solution.
Donc, cette phase s'étendra sur 2 mois, du 8 mars au 30 mai, et en fonction de vos solutions, on les évaluera d'ici le 30 mai.
All right, so that is all for the simulation phase. After the simulation phase, we will have the real world phase.
Pour la phase real world, la période de test littéralement.
All right, and in this phase will start about in June, early June, and the teams that we will select the best performing teams from the simulation phase, and they will compete in the real world phase.
Donc, vous aurez la qualification pour le monde réel. Donc, les équipes vont soumettre leurs solutions qui seront évaluées et les meilleures équipes seront inscrites à la phase d'expérimentation en conditions réelles.
All right. Now, the teams in the real world phase will spend about 1 month remotely accessing the robot that is in Senegal, our agricultural robot developed for Park. You will have 1 month to have remote access to the system, but then in July, we will invite you all, the teams that are in this phase, to spend 1 week in Senegal for the final event. We spend 1 week in Senegal for the final event.
Alors, vous aurez un mois pour pendant un mois, vous aurez accès au système qui sera ici présent au Sénégal pour la période de 10 juin. Ensuite, d'ici juillet, on vous invitera, vous et votre team, pour passer 1 semaine ici au Sénégal pour la finale.
All right, so this 1 week in Senegal would be 1 week intensive working on the robot on a real farm. So we'll take you to a real farm and we'll provide you the real agricultural robot, and you will work on that with your team for 1 week and compete in the final day.
Donc, cette semaine au Sénégal sera une semaine de travail intensif, littéralement, où vous serez amené dans une vraie ferme pour expérimenter votre robot.
All right, is there any question about the timeline or about the 2 phases? I'm happy to take any questions about that now.
Est-ce que vous aurez des questions par rapport à cette competition timeline?
Yeah, my question is, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, my question is around June 10, which is also in the real phase simulation, real phase implementation, will it be in a various country, or are we implementing it in real, that is in our various countries?
Good. That's a good question, Samson. So let me repeat the question and then I'll respond to it. So the question is asking specifically at this beginning time of the real world phase, would you be required, if you qualify for this phase, would you be required to participate in this remotely from your country, or would you be required to come to Senegal? All right, that's the question. So Andrea, you can translate that,
Okay,
and then I'll respond.
La question, c'était de savoir si bien évidemment vous êtes qualifié pour la phase de test en situation réelle, dans le monde réel. Est-ce que vous auriez à le faire remotely, c'est-à-dire dans votre contrée, dans votre pays, ou bien vous devrez venir directement au Sénégal? C'est la question.
All right, the answer to that is for the 1 month between June 10 and July. The dates is exactly for July is not yet determined, but the time between, you will be working remotely. Okay, so we can provide you remote access to the robot over the internet. You remotely access the robot and work on the robot remotely, so you can get used to the system.
Donc, durant cette période du 10 juin jusqu'approximativement juillet, vous aurez accès au robot en ligne, littéralement. Il vous donnera accès au robot, mais en ligne, pour pouvoir tester tout ce que vous avez pu expérimenter pendant la phase de simulation.
All right. So even though you have 1 week on the ground in Senegal to work on the robot, that might not be enough time, sometimes, because, working on real robots takes time. So we want to provide you extra 1 week in advance, even though you will be remote, to start connecting to the robot over network, over the internet, collect data from the real sensors, process that data on your own before you actually arrive in Senegal in July.
Donc, sachant que c'est un peu compliqué de travailler avec un robot, de manière générale, c'est compliqué. Donc, on vous donnera une période d'1 semaine en avance avant le début de la compétition.
All right. Hopefully that answered your question. Was there another
Yeah.
question?
Yeah, I'm cleared. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Another question?
Yes.
Marvin, I think you wanted to ask a question.
For the test online, sometimes we have any problem for the data. Do you have recognized this problem that? Hello?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Could you repeat the question, please?
I said for the test online.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we have a more problem to connect for our server.
Server. Okay.
Yes.
So are you talking about the real world phase when you would need to remote access?
Exactly. The real world phase, yes.
Okay. Are you referring to maybe your experience from past park, the past park competition?
Exactly.
2021?
Yes, 21. Yes.
All right. Yes. This was the first time. Okay, let me repeat the question and then respond. All right. So the question is asking specifically about his experience in the past park competition where we use this same format. Go ahead, Andrea.
Ok, donc la question c'était spécifiquement par rapport à l'expérience qu'il a eue à Parc,
Okay,
où il a
and
utilisé le même format de compétition, c'est-à-dire simulation et real world phase.
right. So the question is specifically saying that there are some issues that he experienced when trying to connect to the remote robot in Senegal from his remote location. I don't remember what country you were in, but over the internet, there was some connectivity issues. And how can that be addressed?
Donc, spécifiquement, la question, c'était de savoir comment faire si tu as un problème de connexion par rapport à ton pays et la connexion au Sénégal pour te connecter au robot.
So the response to that is those challenges exist. We have more experience now how to run this type of remote connection. And so we will plan to make it more effective this time. But really, it's a function of many factors. It could also be a function of internet speed and connectivity. And so there are some things that we can fix, some things that might still continue to be a challenge, but we will work as much as possible with you to make the experience good.
Donc, on a déjà acquis assez d'expérience pour essayer de pallier à ce genre de problème. Donc, on continuera de faire des efforts sur ces points-là. Parce qu'il y a plusieurs situations. Ça peut être la qualité de la vitesse de la connexion et ce n'est pas forcément de notre ressort, mais on fera de notre possible.
All right, great. I can see there's hand raised by George. Yes, George, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Kanachiko.
Hi.
So
I don't know if it's too early to ask what type of processors will be on the real robots, because we would like to develop software that we are sure that will be implementable on both the phase 1 and the phase 2. So this is something that we can know beforehand, so that we work something that works for both phases.
Right. Okay. So repeat the question. So the question is asking specifically about if I can provide information about the hardware that will be on the physical robot that we'll use in phase 2. Now that information can be helpful in how I try to solve the simulation phase, since there's going to be a continuation. Sandra, you can.
Ok, donc la question c'était spécifiquement de savoir si il pouvait avoir des informations sur le matériel du robot, c'est-à-dire quels sont les composants, le processeur par exemple, qui sera dans le robot pour pouvoir mieux travailler sur ça.
All right, yeah, so that's a very good question, George. The answer to that in the moment, it would be a little bit unclear, but as we go along, for example, maybe in the next 1 to 2, next 2 weeks, we should have exactly, we should have a good, much better idea of what kind of, we can provide hopefully the full blueprint of what the system will be. So in about 2 weeks, we would be able to tell you exactly what processing unit is on the robot. So what kind of processor we have, and what actuators we have, and maybe other information that might be helpful or important to you. All right.
Donc,
so yeah, Andrea, go ahead.
D'ici 2 semaines, normalement, il pourra vous donner un peu une idée générale du plan complet du robot, pour que vous ayez une idée de quels sont les processeurs, etc. par rapport au robot.
All right, great. That's a very good question. Thank you. Jesslone, yes, please go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, so my question is, I would like to know, the final will be organized during the month of July. So can you please tell us accurately when it's going to take place? Because we just want to make sure that we are scheduling everything on the right moment. So, yes. And organize everything accordingly. So if we have the right an accurate date, like a time frame, then it will be easy for us to organize. And the second question is about, the testing periods. I don't know about the testing period. Are we going to test the robot remotely in the real farm, or that robot will be like adults? And because I would like to make sure that all the data that we are collecting from the robot is from the real world, actually. So I would like to know if those testing will be done in the real farm or not. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Great questions, Jessalyn. Thank you. Happy to have you again. And George, you too as well, returning contestants or participants. So I will repeat the question. The first question is, what is the date in July for the final competition to help with planning?
Alors, la question, c'était de savoir quelle est la date précise pour la finale.
The answer to that, Jeslo, at the moment is TBD, to be determined. Now, we are working hard to nail down a particular time, and I recognize that this is important for all the teams so they're able to plan effectively. So we are going to try and provide that probably in the next 1 week or so. Okay, so maybe let's say between the next 1 to 2 weeks, by early April, that's about 1 to 2 weeks, we should know exactly what week in the month of July we would be running this event. Okay, so in 1 to 2 weeks, please expect to get that information clearly.
Donc, la date spécifique de la finale sera donnée d'ici 2 semaines. Donc, voilà.
All right, and to your second question the second question was asking, in this real-world phase, particularly in the testing period, would the robot be tested on the farm, or would the robot be tested in a laboratory environment in Doust? And Doust is a university in Senegal that we partner with.
Donc, pour la phase de la période de test du système, ça se fera dans un environnement laboratoire, littéralement dans une université au Sénégal.
Now, the answer to that is that it will be both. Okay, the answer to that, it will be both. Both means that we would provide ways for you to collect real data in the farm. And you don't always need to collect this real data in the farm. If you wanted to do other types of testing, like driving or controlling to drive the robot, you could do it not necessarily in the farm. And so we would do both. We would provide you with real data from the farm, sensor data from the farm, but also allow you to be able to test in other environments that might be more convenient for planning.
Donc, il vous donnera la possibilité de tester directement votre produit sur la ferme, ou ils vous fourniront littéralement des informations, des données spécifiques par rapport à la ferme sur laquelle vous ferez vos tests.
All right, hopefully that was clear for you, Jessalyn, and communicates your concern. All right, so I think there's another question here by Malvern in the chat. I'll just read it. The question is, after the competition, are we going to have the robot as a team, or we will leave the robots we have used in Senegal?
Donc, il y a Marvel qui a posé une question dans le chat pour savoir si après la compétition, est-ce que vous pourrez garder le robot, ou bien okay, let me ask the question. Are we going to have the robot as the team, or I don't really understand the question.
The question is asking whether they're going to use a robot in this second phase. The question is asking, will they take the robot with them, or will they have to leave the robot in Senegal?
Oh, ok. Donc, il voudrait savoir si après toute la compétition, ils pourront garder le robot ou bien le laisser au Sénégal.
Right. The answer to that is that you would leave the robot in Senegal. Okay. The robot that we are using for this competition is a commercial robot. It's cost about $10,000 at least. Then including, actually it costs more than $10,000. It costs about $12,000, excluding all the sensors that we need to put on top of it. So the value of the robot is probably over $15,000. And so you will not be taking the robot with you. You'll be using the robot in Senegal.
Ok, donc vous ne pourrez pas emporter le robot dans votre pays. Vous allez le laisser au Sénégal parce que c'est un robot commercial littéralement, et il coûte à peu près $15,000. Donc, il sera utilisé juste au Sénégal.
All right, awesome. Any other questions? Maybe we can take one more question if there's anyone that has an extra question that has not been addressed. Otherwise,
Est-ce que vous avez d'autres questions? You can even raise your hand in the chat if you have another question.
We'll move on, and you can always ask questions again. All right, so now I want to go through the plan of events.
Donc, on va présenter le plan des événements.
All right, so I mentioned earlier on that this year we want to take a developmental approach so that we can help to provide you as much support and training as much as we can so that you actually learn a lot, especially if you're a beginner.
Donc, cette année, on a bien voulu faire, avoir une approche un peu plus collaborative afin que ceux qui sont débutants puissent apprendre de ceux qui ont déjà beaucoup de connaissances.
All right, so based on that, we have planned to have multiple events on Saturdays, mostly Saturdays, like this day today, where we will have workshops on Zoom like this, so that we can provide you with learning experience to develop skills.
Donc, les ateliers se feront plus ou moins les samedis, pour pouvoir donner un peu plus d'explications et développer vos expériences et vos capacités à manipuler les softwares, etc.
Right, so we have next week, we will have a PC setup workshop. And what this is that you need to have a certain configuration for your computer to be able to run the software for the competition. So we're going to have a workshop next week. For those of you who need help with setting up your computer, we will have that workshop next week.
Donc, la semaine prochaine, nous aurons PC Setup Workshop. Donc, ce serait un atelier de configuration parce que vous aurez besoin de plusieurs applications et plusieurs softwares à installer. Donc, la semaine prochaine, ça sera basé sur ça.
All right. And then we would have 2 sessions of introduction to robotics. Okay, and this will cover some of what I explained before about sensing, thinking, and acting, and how those things form a robot behavior. We will cover this almost like a university class. We'll provide you a lot of information over these 2 workshop days.
Donc, on aura à partir du 8 avril au 15, je vois bien, vous aurez 2 sessions d'introduction à la robotique. On va couvrir un peu on va couvrir un peu plus sur le sensing, thinking and acting de vos robots.
And then after that, 2 weeks after, we would have 2 more sessions. One is on how to use MATLAB and ROS. So these are software packages, software platforms that we use for this competition. So we'll have somebody from MATLAB come and do a workshop on how to use MATLAB to complete this competition.
Alors, 2 semaines après l'introduction à la robotique, vous aurez un workshop, c'est-à-dire un atelier sur MATLAB, et un représentant de MATLAB viendra vous expliquer en quelque sorte comment vous allez utiliser le software pour la compétition. Donc, vous aurez MATLAB et ROS.
All right, and then we'll also have a workshop on on the basics of computer vision, which is this concept about how you can use cameras to teach a robot to understand its environment.
Donc, vous aurez aussi un autre atelier sur les bases de la vision computer vision. Et vous aurez on va vous expliquer en fait le concept sur comment utiliser la caméra, comment apprendre au robot à utiliser la caméra et comprendre son environnement.
Right. So those are the 4 training sessions that we have planned already so far.
Donc,
and then also go ahead.
Ce sont les 4 sessions d'entraînement qui vous seront présentées pendant ces sessions.
All right, so those will all be in April, and then in May, we're planning to have 2 panel sessions.
Donc, en mai, vu que les précédents, c'était pour la période du mois d'avril, en mai, vous aurez 2 panels.
In these panel sessions, we will invite experts from all around the world, especially Africans who are in industry in robotics or in academia in robotics. For the first panel session, we'll talk about pathways to robotics. So people who are in the robotics industry all around the world, we'll invite them to have a panel discussion, and you can ask them questions. You can hear, oh, if I want to be a robotics, and what if I want to be a robotics engineer? How should I go about it? You hear their own story of how they navigated through education and through working to become robotics engineers.
Donc, pour ce panel, des experts du monde entier seront invités, des experts africains spécifiquement, qui sont dans l'industrie de la robotique. Ils vont vous expliquer en quelque sorte la robotique de manière générale, partager leur expérience et voilà.
All right, and so I would strongly recommend everyone to attend this session, because if you're really interested in robotics, you would get a chance to hear the stories of people who are in the field, have real life experience, and you can learn from their experience on how you can also achieve your dreams and goals in robotics.
Alors, pour ceux qui ont vraiment envie de se lancer dans la robotique, il serait avantageux pour vous de vraiment participer à ces panels pour voilà, avoir des real life experiences, des expériences de vie.
All right, and then the second one will be on agricultural robotics in Africa. We will invite people who are actually doing agricultural robotics today on the continent, and they will discuss their experience, what kind of robotics companies that they have in Africa today, and you get a chance to network with these people so that you can actually see what's really happening on the African continent in robotics for agriculture.
Donc, le second panel des acteurs principaux de l'agriculture robotique en Afrique seront invités pour partager leur expérience. Quelles sont les compagnies de robotique agricole qui existent en Afrique, et si vous avez plus de chance, vous pourrez link, c'est-à-dire vous connecter avec eux pour le futur.
All right, and I think there's one more. Yes, by the phase 1 will end on March 30th. Okay, so that's the last thing there, the end of phase 1.
Donc la phase 1 de mars à mai, ce sera de mars à mai, la phase 1. Donc elle terminera le 30 mai.
Yeah. There are a couple of questions in the chat. I will go now to the chat and pick them one by one to respond. There are many questions in the chat. So let me go back to Ifeanyi asked a question. Who is funding the real world phase? Teams or PAC? Go ahead, Andrea, you can translate that.
Donc, dans le chat, il y avait des questions. Et Ifeanyi a demandé qui va, comment dirais-je?
All right. Are you okay?
Financer.
Qui va financer
Okay.
la phase réelle? C'est les teams ou bien c'est parcs? Voilà.
Thank you for helping us. All right. Okay, so the question is who is funding? All right, so the answer to that question is that PAC is funding the event. PAC will cover the accommodation of all the teams that qualify for phase 2. PAC will cover feeding. PAC will cover everything But the only thing that Park is not going to cover is your transportation to Senegal. Okay, so you will not be paying a registration fee. You will not be paying to accommodate yourself or to feed or to use a robot. We will cover all of that, but you will be covering the transportation of your team members to Senegal.
Donc, Parc vous aidera par rapport, va financer l'hébergement, la nourriture et littéralement presque tous les aspects, à part votre ticket d'avion pour venir au Sénégal.
And so we have
C'est les
okay,
teams qui vont financer leur billet d'avion.
And so in the past, we have had some good success in helping teams with resources on how to do fundraising. If you are maybe a school, how you can engage your school administration to do fundraising, or how you can approach organizations that will be interested in funding or supporting your team in doing fundraising. So we'll provide you all that support to help you to see how you can do fundraising to raise money for flights, for the flight cost or bus cost to come to Senegal.
Donc, dans les éditions précédentes, il y a eu beaucoup de succès pour collecter les fonds pour le voyage, etc. Mais on va voir pour cette année comment faire pour vous apprendre à le faire encore une fois.
All right, very good. Maybe just one more point on that issue is I know that one thing that we try to do in Park is to make as much as possible to avoid having financial limitation to be a deterrent for people to experience and learn and grow. So we will do our best to support every team who needs to come to Senegal. So yes, we'll do our best to make sure that you are able to enjoy the full experience. So I don't want anybody to feel like, oh, I'm not going to be able to travel, so maybe I should not compete. Nope, please don't do that. Compete. If your team qualifies, we will do all we can to support you with ways to raise funds and whatnot so that you can come to Senegal.
Ok, donc on vous demande de ne pas vous décourager. Pour les teams qui, bien évidemment, seront qualifiés, on verra comment faire en fait pour vous permettre de venir au Sénégal pour participer à la compétition.
All right. The next question is by Marvin asking, we are using which distro of ROS? So the question is asking what distribution or what version of ROS? ROS is a robotic software system, sort of. Is asking what distribution of ROS. Marvin, I would show you that information in this presentation in a few slides.
Donc, il y a Marvin qui demandait quelle était la version de ROS qui serait utilisée pour la compétition. Donc, les slides qui arrivent vont vous montrer en quelque sorte quelle est la version à utiliser.
All right, I think the next question was about funding. We addressed that. I think the next question is platform for makers, stars, tech league. So these are the question is asking, when will the other leagues open for registration? The answer to that is, it is to be determined. Okay, to be determined. It is not yet determined.
Donc, il y a une question. Shiamaka demandait de savoir quand est-ce que les inscriptions pour les makers, les stars et les tech se fera. Donc, pour le moment, on n'a pas de date précise, mais ça se fera, Inch'Allah.
All right, the next question is using MATLAB compulsory, or can we also use C++ or Python? So this question is asking about programming languages that you can use for the competition. Is asking whether MATLAB is compulsory or you can use other languages. The answer to that, or maybe I'll have you, Andrea, you can translate that before I give the answer.
Donc, la question était de savoir quels seront les langages de programmation utilisés pour la compétition. Est-ce que c'est obligatoirement MATLAB ou bien d'autres langages de programmation?
All right, so the answer to that is that we have two tasks, okay, two tasks. One of the tasks, you can use whatever you want. In task one, you can use whatever you want. You can use MATLAB, you can use C++, you can use Python, you can use Julia, you can use whatever. Task two, we would like you to use MATLAB. Okay, so there is a requirement that that task be completed in MATLAB, still using ROS. So you're going to be using MATLAB with ROS, but it will be in MATLAB. Now, if you're very excited about solving that same problem, the weed detection problem in Python, you could also do that, but we will ask you to then submit two solutions, one in MATLAB and one in Python or C++. So just to summarize the answer for you, Andrea, task one, any language you prefer is good. Task two, we would like you to use at least MATLAB. If you want to use other ones as well, that is fine, but you should do at least MATLAB for task two.
Donc, pour la tâche numéro 1, c'est-à-dire la navigation autonome dans les champs, vous pouvez utiliser tous les types de langages de programmation qui vous feront plaisir. Mais pour la tâche numéro 2, vous devez littéralement utiliser MATLAB pour cette tâche.
And an addition to that question is, yes, I know there's a question by Professor Bolu. Yes, in addition to that question is that MATLAB is one of the sponsors for this competition, and they will be providing a free full license to all the participants. So you get a full license. This is not a free trial license. It's an approved student license for all participants. So we will provide you with a link. All right. So let me summarize that for you, Andrea. For this competition, all participants are getting a full MATLAB license. So you can use MATLAB. I think it's for up to 1 year from this competition. So up to 1 year of a full MATLAB license to use MATLAB for this competition and also other things that you would like to use MATLAB for.
Donc, pour cette compétition, MATLAB est l'un des sponsors déjà pour la compétition. Donc, ils vous fourniront une licence, une full licence. Ça ne sera pas un essai, mais ce sera une licence étudiante dans le cadre de la compétition.
All right. Wonderful. Next question. I think this was sent as a private question to me, but it might be helpful for everybody. The question is, am I allowed to design either a self-control or human control robot? So let me try to understand that question and paraphrase that for you, Andrea. The question is, I think the question is asking whether the robot should be autonomous or human controlled. Okay, so that is robot should be autonomous, meaning that can move and behave on its own, or it needs to be human or like remote controlled.
Donc, la question, c'était de savoir si le robot sera contrôlé par un humain et ou ce sera autonome.
All right, that's a very good question. The answer is that the robot should be fully autonomous. All right, there should be no human control. You should write software so the robot can think on its own, it can process information, and it can behave in a way that is predictable to complete the task on its own.
Donc, le robot devrait être autonome pour complete the task par lui-même.
All right. So just moving on quickly. So how many teams will advance to the real phase? That is a good question. Right now, we are planning to invite up to 10 teams to the final phase, okay? Up to 10 teams to the final phase.
Donc, la question, c'était de savoir combien de teams iront jusqu'à la phase monde réel. Et ça sera 10 teams seulement pour la finale, 10 teams.
All right. The next question is, what will be the final prize this year? Very good question. The final prize is, we're still determining that because that's a function of how much our current sponsors will provide. So it's not yet clear to us what that final prize would be, but that is something that we'll also communicate with the group as we move on. Okay, so summary is, final prize is not yet determined. We're still in getting support from our sponsors so we can provide a good final prize for the winners.
Donc, le prix, la question c'était de savoir quel sera le prix pour les gagnants. Et Kina a répondu que ça sera, on n'a pas encore déterminé, parce que c'est en fonction de nos sponsors qu'on détermine en quelque sorte le prix. Donc, c'est pas encore déterminé.
All right, next question. Yes, about MATLAB. I think that is addressed. MATLAB will provide, I think this is up to 1 year license, but definitely would cover the period of the competition. So there will be no need to do a free trial. The next question is, can we have reported copy of this? Recorded copy, yes. So the question is asking about recording of this meeting. Yes, we'll provide you a recording of the meeting as well as the slides.
Donc, là, il y a une question qui demandait de savoir si c'était un essai de 30 jours. Donc, pour MATLAB, ça sera, je pense, un an de licence. Et la seconde question, c'était de savoir si vous pourrez avoir accès au meeting, et aux slides et au meeting à la version enregistrée. Donc, c'est possible, oui, vous aurez.
All right, and Professor Bolu's question is on, perhaps I should provide more information or more details on the OpenCV software. So the question is, can we have perhaps more information about the OpenCV software? I think right now what I can give at a high level is that OpenCV is a computer vision library that we can use to, I think somebody put something on the screen here. OpenCV is a software library that you can use to develop software for that you can use existing developed software for computer vision. Okay, and it's a very popular library. It's in C++, programming language. It's in Python and many other languages. We would have this computer vision intro will focus on CV, OpenCV. This workshop will focus on OpenCV. For those who need an introduction to OpenCV, you can attend this workshop. We would have experts in the field to give a very nice workshop. Last time we had a very nice workshop on this as well. Okay, so that is that. So Andrea, let me give a summary of what I just said so that you can translate that. The summary is that OpenCV is a software library for computer vision systems, okay? And that if it's something that you would like to use to solve your problems, your challenges in this competition, we would have a workshop on the 29th of April to introduce OpenCV.
Donc, la question, c'était de savoir s'il pouvait avoir plus de détails sur le OpenCV software. Donc, OpenCV est une librairie d'applications pour les systèmes de vision d'ordinateur. Et le 29 avril, vous aurez littéralement un workshop par rapport à cela.
All right. So thank you all for questions. Please keep them coming. Let's move on. All right, so this is the next thing that we'll do now. I want to walk you through very briefly. I know we're kind of ready. The plan was for this to also end the next 30 minutes. So I want to make sure we move quickly, but I also want to make sure that you all ask all the questions that you need. All right, so documentation overview. All right, documentation overview. I would like you all to, if you have a chance, to actually, Andrea, can you paste this in the, actually, I think I would also need, yeah, okay, so Andrea has put the link in the chat, okay? I'd like you all to go to that page, or you can also just watch me go to the page. I'm going to unshare for a minute so I can share the right page that has the competition documentation, okay? Now let me share my screen again. Share screen.
Donc, Kenny a dit qu'il voudrait que vous puissiez cliquer sur le lien que j'ai mis dans le chat pour pouvoir avoir accès à des informations sur la compétition.
All right, so hopefully you can see the screen. This is the documentation website. What we had on the screen was a shortened URL. This is actually the full link. So you can save this link. This is where you need to come every time. Okay, so I'm not going to go through everything here. I just want to show you a few things that are important for you to see, okay? This website is the website that has all the information about the competition. Andrea, go ahead.
Donc, le site que vous avez devant les yeux, je suppose que vous avez déjà ouvert la page. Vous aurez toutes les informations dont vous aurez besoin pour la compétition.
All right, so this is the introduction page. You can see all the information about the simulation phase, real world phase. There's information about that.
Donc, vous auriez des informations sur la phase réelle et la phase de simulation.
All right, important dates. You can click there and you can see the important dates, like we already talked about.
Donc, vous avez la partie date importante. Vous aurez un calendrier littéralement de toutes les dates importantes liées à l'événement.
Okay. All right. Now, the main part is, I want to show you is the getting started tutorials.
Donc, il va vous expliquer en quelque sorte le Getting Started tutorial, donc le tutoriel pour la compétition.
All right. So there was a question about what operating system, what ROS distribution, or what ROS version. All the information is here.
Donc, sur cet onglet, vous aurez accès à toutes les informations par rapport au software, ROS, et voilà.
Okay. Now I want to say something very important for us. Usually in robotics, we develop robotic software in Linux, specifically Ubuntu operating system. Okay, the Ubuntu operating system is the most common and the most widely used operating system for developing robot software.
Donc, pour le développement d'applications de robotique, les softwares les plus utilisés, ou plutôt les... Comment ça s'appelle là? Les systèmes les plus utilisés pour créer des logiciels de robotique sont Linux et Ubuntu.
Most people in the whole world use Windows. Okay, I use Windows. Many people use Windows. And so if you have a Windows computer, that is okay. We have provided 3 ways for you to get access to Ubuntu operating system on your computer. You don't need to buy a new computer, except if you have a lot of money and you want to. But you can use your existing computer as long as it has some of these specifications to run this competition.
Donc, pour utiliser le Ubuntu, vous n'aurez pas forcément besoin d'acheter un autre ordinateur, mais vous avez 3 options qui se présentent à vous dans le site pour utiliser Ubuntu.
All right, so there are some details here. The details are around options for getting, if you have a Windows computer, how can you get the Ubuntu operating system? You can take option 1, something called a dual boot. Okay, option 2 is to use Docker, and option 3 is to use a virtual machine. Now, these are all quite technical. I don't want to go into too much detail in this presentation, but we have links and tutorials on how to do each of them. And we can also provide support for you. Next Saturday actually is focusing on a workshop for people who want help on getting the computer set up. Next Saturday, we would walk you through the different processes. So Andrea, let me summarize.
Samedi, oui, c'est okay. So, samedi prochain, vous aurez un workshop pour toutes les personnes qui auront besoin d'aide pour la configuration de leur ordinateur. Mais pour ceux qui peuvent le faire, vous avez dans le site, on a dit pour ceux qui ont Windows, vous avez 3 options. Vous pouvez, vous avez le dual boot, le using Docker and using virtual machine. Donc, on pourra rentrer plus en détail samedi par rapport à ça.
All right. All right. I think that is, okay, one thing I just still want to stress is this is a very important step. Setting up your PC is very important, and it can also be a bit complicated. So we will work with you to get this step done as soon as possible.
Donc, c'est vraiment une phase importante. La configuration de votre laptop est vraiment importante pour le déroulement de la compétition. Donc, on va essayer de le faire le plus rapidement possible.
All right. So there are many other links. Andrea, I'm just going to click on the different links. Maybe you might not need to translate this. I just want to show all the links. There are many links, and we have painstakingly provided a lot of this explanation and details, all the links, okay, on how to get set up. So what you can translate, Andrea, is just there are many links here on this website. We want you to go through the website and read everything. If there are things that you don't understand, you can ask us questions on Slack.
Donc, le site est là. Essayez d'aller un peu, de cliquer sur tous les liens que vous pourrez voir, lire, comprendre. Et si vous avez des questions par rapport à un lien que vous n'avez pas compris, une phrase, vous pouvez toujours envoyer un message sur Slack si on vous répondra.
All right. And then let me show us what the phase 1. So this is the phase 1 page. We can see the robot. The robot has 3 cameras. This is camera 1, camera 2, and there's actually another camera here, 3 cameras. Okay. The robot has a GPS sensor, and the robot has a 2D LiDAR sensor. Okay, so a 2D laser scanner sensor.
Donc, le robot a 3 caméras et un GPS et un laser 2D.
All right, and this is what the farm simulated farm looks like. Okay, so we had a great engineers working with me for the past 2 months to develop all of this software, and we're very excited to show this to you today. So we have this farm environment, we have the crops, we have the weeds, we have the robot, and this is where you'll be performing your navigation task and your weed detection task.
Donc, sur la photo, vous pourrez voir l'environnement de simulation. C'est un ingénieur qui a travaillé avec nous pendant 2 mois, qui a essayé de matérialiser, imager en quelque sorte l'environnement de simulation.
Yeah, I think I saw Sekiru in the call, so I just want to acknowledge Sekiru's hard work. So Sekiru was the one who single-handedly designed this environment in Gazebo. So well done, Sekiru, if you're still on the call, and thank you for your very hard work on developing this.
Il est juste en train de remercier l'ingénieur, vu qu'apparemment il est rentré dans le call. Donc voilà.
All right, so yeah, so these are I just want to highlight those things. The task 1 information is here. You can take, this is what your robot should do. It should drive through the crop rows, turn at one side, drive back down. You know, just in this cartoon here, as you can see, this is what you should be able to do using only the sensors on your robot to know how to drive around the crop rows.
Donc, sur la vidéo, je pense que c'est un GIF. Vous pouvez voir en quelque sorte qu'est-ce que votre robot est censé faire. Passer entre les cultures et arriver jusqu'au point rouge. Vous pouvez voir là-bas. Littéralement, merci.
All right, so there's a lot of details that you can see. And as you read through, if you have questions, please ask us. Task 2 is also a similar thing. You can go through. Task 2 is focusing more on weed detection. You can see that. Yeah, Andrea, you can go ahead.
Vous pouvez toujours vous balader dans le site. Vous aurez un peu plus de cartoons, de gifs, de vidéos pour vous expliquer en quelque sorte quelles sont les actions que votre robot est censé effectuer.
So I think that is mostly it. Yeah, there's a frequently asked questions page. We will try to keep updating this page with more questions. So you can always come here and ask. You can come here to see if the question you have is answered.
Donc, vous avez la partie des questions fréquentes et on va essayer d'actualiser en quelque sorte toutes les questions qui sont nécessaires à la compréhension du challenge sur cette page. Donc, vous pouvez toujours aller le checker.
All right, and then there's also rules and regulations. You can take a look at that. And finally, there is a additional resources page that we are going to continue to fill with additional resources that are relevant for this course and for this project. So we'll provide more links to tutorials, more links to resources. So we'll be adding that to this page as we go along.
Donc, sur cette page, comme vous pouvez le voir, vous aurez des liens, des tutoriels pour pouvoir vous aider un peu plus sur le développement de votre robot. Software.
All right. Questions in the chat. If you have questions, please put it on the chat. I think that is all I have for showing you the documentation page. So let me answer some of the questions. And if there are other questions, we can also you can also ask. All right, so Professor Bolu's question was, what IDE are we using for OpenCV? Okay, so Andrea, the question there is what software development environment or software development platform will you be using for OpenCV? Okay.
Donc, la question, c'était de savoir quelle est la plateforme qui sera utilisée pour OpenCV.
So the answer to that is we haven't set a particular IDE that you should use. My personal preference is that you use Visual Studio Code, VS Code. It's probably the most used IDE, not necessarily for OpenCV, but for software development. So I'm going to put it in the chat. Visual Studio Code, otherwise called VS Code. Okay, Visual Studio Code is probably the most common to use. I use that a lot. Many people use that a lot. There's a lot of support online for VS Code. If your question is particular about maybe programming language for OpenCV, OpenCV can be used at least in Python. It has a Python library. It has a C++ library. And so you can use either of those. In this competition, you can use C++, you can use Python. I think most people would use Python, but if your team wants to use C++, that is also very much fine. So let me paraphrase that for you, Andrea. The answer to that question is Visual Studio Code is my recommendation, but teams can use whatever IDE they choose to use. We're not defining that for you, but if you would like us to recommend something, we recommend Visual Studio Code. Okay, Andrea, could you translate that? Hello. Hello, Andrea. Can you all still hear me? Hello.
Yeah,
Yes,
I can
we
hear
can,
you.
we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay.
I hope Andrea is not disappeared or something.
Looks like maybe we lost Andrea. Jesslyn, can I please ask you to fill in for Andrea if you don't mind? I'm sorry to put
Okay,
you on the
sure, no
spot.
problem.
All right, I was the response to the question about IDE for OpenCV is my personal recommendation is Visual Studio Code. I put that in chat, but teams can feel free to use whichever they're familiar with.
Ok, la recommandation concernant l'environnement de développement est Visual Studio Code. Alors, vous êtes libre de sélectionner n'importe quel type d'environnement que vous voulez. La recommandation est VS Code.
Thank you, Jessalyn. The other question is, can we use WSL on Windows? The answer is yes, you can. Thank you, David, for helping with answering that question. Yes, you can use WSL. WSL is a good option. We recommended other options also, but you can use WSL as well.
La deuxième question était de savoir si on pouvait utiliser WSL et la réponse est oui. Donc, vous pouvez utiliser WSL pour ce que vous voulez. Donc, vous êtes libre d'utiliser les outils tels que vous le voulez.
Thank you. Other question is, can you use ROS 2 instead of ROS 1? Okay, so ROS is the robot operating system. The question is asking whether we can use a newer version of ROS compared to the previous one. The answer to that is we are supporting ROS 1 for this competition. Okay, and if you have been following PAC, we have been using ROS 1 till now. This year will be the last year we use ROS 1. From next year, we will actually transition to ROS 2. So to answer your question specifically, we would ask you to please use ROS 1, okay, and not ROS 2 for this time around. We are not supporting ROS 2, meaning that the packages might not work in ROS 2, and will not be able to provide support for that. So you can, we would ask you to use ROS1, and we can help you with support if you need to do a backward transition on your ROS distribution. Okay, so maybe I can summarize that a little bit, Jessalyn, for you, or do you feel okay to respond to that?
Ok, la deuxième question concernait si on pouvait installer ROS 1 ou ROS 2. Alors, cette année, telle que l'année passée, on ne supporte que la version de ROS 1. Et jusqu'à l'année prochaine, ça sera toujours ROS 1. Ensuite, on basculera vers ROS 2. Alors, si vous utilisez ROS 2, on aura des difficultés pour avoir le support technique. Alors, on vous recommande d'utiliser ROS 1 pour être sûr que vous avez le support. Parce que c'est la version de ROS qui a été utilisée cette année.
Thank you, Jessalyn. I hope that we can actually have Andrea join us back. I wonder what happened.
She's back.
Right. Okay, all right, thank you. The next question is asking, could we get an idea of the range of individual sensors? That's a good question. We can provide that information, yes. We can provide that information in one of our workshops, okay? We will provide that information for one of our workshops on Introduction to Robotics. But usually there are many ways you can get that information on your own in simulation. But if it's something that's new to you, if you attend one of the workshops, we will provide that information as we introduce you to robotics and how to use sensors and actuators. Okay, so the short answer to that is yes, you can get an idea. If you come for one of our workshops on Introduction to Robotics, we will provide you that type of information. Okay. Jessalyn, do you want to take that?
Do you want me to translate this?
Yes, please. I don't see Andrea. Andrea, are you back? Oh, Andrea is back. Andrea, can you hear us?
Okay, sure, no problem. Alors, l'autre
I have a
question était de
connection
savoir.
problem and power cut all around.
That's okay. Are you fully back, or you still need some minutes to?
I can, but like there is a little crack.
Okay. Did you get the last question? All right, Andrea, let's give you a few minutes to get settled. Justin, can you go ahead, please, so that we move forward?
It's cutting at some point. I don't think it's okay.
Okay, Jessalyn, I'm sorry to put you on the spot. Are you okay with kind of translating for the next maybe 10 minutes while we have Andrea maybe?
Okay, no problem.
Okay, thank you. So please go ahead.
Ok, l'autre question était de savoir quelle est, la personne voulait avoir une idée sur la portée de chaque capteur. Alors, la réponse est que on vous invite à participer aux prochains ateliers pour avoir les idées, les informations sur les capteurs qui seront utilisés. Et encore une deuxième alternative, c'est d'avoir les informations dans l'environnement de développement. Dans Gazebo, vous avez la possibilité d'avoir les informations sur les capteurs.
All right, thank you. Another question is, can a robotics startup participate? The answer is yes. This is primarily for undergraduate students in Africa and African universities, but it is open to graduates who are interested in robotics. So yes, please, you can participate.
L'autre question est de savoir si une startup en robotique peut participer à la compétition. Et la réponse est oui. Donc, et vous êtes libre de participer à la compétition. Que vous soyez une startup ou étudiant, vous êtes libre de participer à la compétition.
All right. The other question is it possible to install on a Mac? So Mac, that is the Apple operating MacBook, Apple laptops or computers. The answer is yes, but this is a little bit, it's similar to like if you're installing on Windows, it's a bit complicated, but we can provide some amount of support for you if you're installing on a Mac and see what kind of options you have. Okay, yeah, so the answer is yes, this is possible. If you have a Mac, you can use a Mac. We'll discuss with you on how to set up your computer on a Mac.
L'autre question était de savoir si on pouvait installer le logiciel sur les Mac. Alors la réponse est oui. Cependant, si vous avez des difficultés, on pourra vous aider à installer cela sur votre ordinateur.
All right, thank you. The other question is, what software are we using for team collaboration? I think that is up to the teams, up to your team. Okay, if your team wants to collaborate on GitHub or Bitbucket or whatever platform, please go ahead. We are not defining that for the teams. Every team can choose to collaborate with each other with whatever way works best for the team. Okay.
Alors, l'autre question est de savoir quel est le logiciel qu'on utilise pour le travail collaboratif en équipe. Alors, la réponse est que vous pouvez utiliser n'importe quel outil de travail collaboratif, tel que GitHub, Bitbucket. Vous êtes libre de sélectionner celui qui vous va le mieux pour votre équipe.
Thank you. All right, so my plan is for us to end this in the next few, before the end of this hour. So I want to move a little bit quickly, and I will. So let me quickly come back to our slides. There are just a few more slides to share with us before we call it a day. But please still feel free to ask questions. If you have questions, please feel free. Let me get the slides back up quickly. All right, so get back here. So now I want to mention our communication channels. All right, our communication channels is primarily through Slack. Okay, Slack is a primary communication channel that we will use for this competition. All right. If you're not on Slack yet, please, we need you to get on Slack immediately. All right, this is very important. You might lose or miss information that is very important. Okay, so not only the team leaders, every team member needs to be on Slack. All right, so please, if you're a team leader and you got the email that we sent to you, please forward that email to all your team members. That email has the link that you would use to connect to the invitation link for Slack. All right, so just on the summary of that is, we're using Slack to communicate. Please get on Slack.
OK, donc le canal de communication par excellence pour cette compétition cette année, c'est Slack. Donc, on vous recommande tous d'immédiatement se connecter à Slack. Donc, vous avez eu le lien via les emails. Donc, on vous prie de vous connecter sur Slack pour toutes les informations qui seront là. Et ce n'est pas seulement pour les chefs de groupe, les chefs d'équipe, mais plutôt pour tous les membres de chaque équipe. On vous recommande d'être sur Slack pour plus d'informations.
And if you don't have access to that email for some reason, please send us an email to get the Slack invitation link. Okay, so that's why I have put this email here. Send us an email at parkengineering@seneco.com to get access to the email. I'm sorry, access to the Slack link.
OK, donc si vous n'avez pas encore reçu le lien d'invitation sur Slack, on vous prie d'envoyer un email à l'adresse qui est mentionnée là-bas, parkengineering@senecol.com, pour avoir accès au Slack, donc avoir le lien d'invitation.
All right, so let me show you what our Slack would look like in 1 minute here. Where is Slack? Where is Slack? Where is Slack? Slack. All right, so I'm sharing my screen on Slack. This is Slack. We have over 113 people already on Slack. So most of you are already on Slack. That is good. We have different channels on Slack. We have the general channel. We have this channel for introductions. We want you to come on this channel and share your name, your country, what you do, what aspect of robotics you are interested in. This channel is for any PC setup questions. You can put it on this channel. And then these channels are for task 1 and task 2 related questions. Okay, so just now you can just summarize what I just said. Anyway, I'm just going through the different Slack channels.
Ok, là on faisait une présentation de Slack et vous avez la première chaîne qui est la chaîne en général où vous aurez les informations générales. La deuxième chaîne qui est introduction où chacun aura la possibilité de se présenter, de présenter son équipe, son pays et quels sont les aspects de la robotique qui l'intéressent le plus. La troisième chaîne qui est PC Setup, donc c'est la configuration du PC, comment vous allez vous y prendre pour configurer votre ordinateur pour que l'environnement tourne dessus. Et ensuite, vous avez le random, là, c'est ce qui est, comment je dirais, divers, voilà, pratiquement. Et vous avez aussi Task One, là, ça sera toutes les informations qui sont liées à la première tâche du challenge, et ainsi que Task 2 aussi, ça sera aussi lié à la deuxième tâche du challenge. Donc, voilà les chaînes que vous avez pour le groupe Slack.
Thank you so much, Jessalyn. All right, so that is that for communication. Very important that you stay updated and you can engage with not only us, the organizing team, but also your, your colleagues. Okay, so I was going to do a quick overview of software tools, but I'm going to skip that because you have access to the slides. I was just showing you Ubuntu. You need Ubuntu. You need Python, probably Python. You can use C++ also, but Python. You need MATLAB. You will get a full license. And you need ROS. Okay? It's high level. And you need Gazebo. Gazebo is a simulation environment. All right, so I just moved through that very quickly. I don't want to spend more time. I want to respect everybody's time so we can end the next minute or so. All right, so let me just go on to what is next. Okay, you are here in this meeting. You are wondering, okay, this is nice. What next? All right, just now you can just say what I said.
Yeah, can you please come again?
Okay, I'm just saying, the last thing I want to talk about now is what next? What should you do next? Now that you are here, I'm giving you this 2-hour presentation. What next? I want to talk about what next.
Ok, alors on a présenté l'événement après 2 heures. Alors chacun se poserait certainement la question, alors qu'est-ce qu'il y a après? Alors il va bientôt parler de ce qu'il y aura après tout ceci.
All right, so, thank you. So what next is, we want you to do these 4 things, okay? This is the next important 4 things to do, okay? Number 1, join Slack, okay? If you're not on Slack, join Slack and send your introduction message on the Slack introduction channel, like we showed you.
Ok, la première des choses à faire tout de suite là, c'est de joindre le groupe Slack et d'envoyer votre message de présentation dans la chaîne introduction que vous allez retrouver dans Slack.
All right, the next thing is to visit the documentation website, the one that we shared with you. You need to visit that website, bookmark that website on your browser so you have easy access to it. We want you to read the documentation website. If you have any questions, ask us on Slack. And most importantly, start setting up your PC. If you don't have Ubuntu 20.04 running on your computer, start setting up your PC.
Voilà, la deuxième étape est de visiter le site de documentation et de commencer la configuration de votre PC. Donc, on vous recommande déjà dès maintenant d'aller visiter le site, de le mettre dans vos bookmarks, dans votre navigateur, afin d'y accéder facilement et de commencer maintenant même de configurer votre PC. Et s'il y a les questions, vous allez rejoindre le groupe Slack pour les poser.
All right, and then we will ask you to, next thing to do is to fill out the participant survey form. Now, we're going to send this form on Slack by the end of this weekend. So by end of today or tomorrow, we want all the participants, not teams. We already got your team registration, but we want to get information about all participants. We'll do a survey of all the participants. So please fill out that form. That's the next important thing to do. And finally, I'll just add this to that. Finally, we want you to prepare your team project plan.
OK. La troisième chose qu'on vous recommande de faire, c'est d'aller compléter le formulaire de sondage qui vous sera envoyé. Donc, on vous prie vraiment de le compléter. Une fois que c'est fait, la dernière étape, qui est la quatrième, on recommande chacun de préparer un plan de projet pour l'équipe.
All right, just some information about the plan. The plan is essentially, we want you to sit down with your team and think, how are we going to engage in this competition? How are we going to solve task 1, task 2? What is your timeline? How are you going to share the task among yourselves? Now, we're not prescribing anything to the teams. We want to compel the teams to plan for the project so that you are successful.
Alors, concernant la planification, le projet de planification pour chaque équipe, on vous recommande de discuter en équipe sur les délais que vous allez vous fixer, les techniques, comment vous allez aborder le sujet, quelles sont les techniques que vous allez utiliser pour résoudre le problème. Et donc, en équipe, vous essayez de faire une planification complète du projet.
All right, thank you. So that is the end. Okay, so we're at the end. Finally, thank you very much for bearing with me. And thank you so much, Jesslyn, for jumping in to help us with translating. There are a few questions, I believe, that I will be happy to respond to, but we're going to keep recording. I want to make sure I respect everyone's time. So if you need to leave the meeting now, we feel free to. We'll try to wrap everything up in the next 1 or 2 minutes. Let me just respond to some questions here. One question is asking about recording. Yes, the meeting will be recorded, and we will send you a link to download the recording or to view the recording and to download the slides on Slack. Okay, so again, Slack is really where you need to be so you can get all the information. Another question is about specification of laptop to get in case you want to buy one. The specification is on the website, on the documentation website. You can see the specification on documentation website. Okay. All right, so I think that's all. The other question is, can we use Kali Linux or Ubuntu is a must? Yes, Ubuntu is a must. We are only supporting the Ubuntu version of Linux. There are many versions of, there are many flavors of Linux, but we're really only supporting Ubuntu. Okay, so we need you to use Ubuntu for this competition. All right. Yes, we have someone with a hand raised. Please go ahead, ask your question.
Hi everyone, I'm Yakuba Jara from Mali. I have 2 questions.
Yes.
The first question is the Ubuntu operating system. I saw that you recommended Ubuntu Focal and Rust Noetic. Can another team use or another member participant can use Ubuntu 2022 Ubuntu Humble? Excuse me.
Right. So
My
you're
question
asking,
is,
yeah, no, I understand your question, Dara. Okay, so I will repeat the question and then I will respond to the question. The question is asking specifically whether you can use different versions of Ubuntu or different distributions of Ubuntu. We are recommending that you use Ubuntu 20.04, which is the Ubuntu focal. And you're asking whether you can use maybe 22.04 or maybe 18.04, whatever, different types. The answer to that is we would like you to use, we're only supporting 20.04, okay? We're only supporting Ubuntu 20.04, meaning that we have only tested all the software that we have written for this in 20.04. Okay. And so we strongly encourage you to use that distribution. But if you feel competent and confident that you can run everything in a different distribution, please feel free. But we will not be able to support that. If you're having challenges, it might be more difficult for us to provide you support if we have not used the one that we have tested. Okay, so we encourage everybody to use the one that we are sure will work well for you.
Yeah. I have one last question, Mr.
Yes, please go ahead.
You said earlier that you would like us to use MATLAB for second task of the competition.
Yes.
Assuming there is a team that was planning to use to create a deep learning model, does MATLAB have the infrastructure and the solution for that?
That's a great question. The question is asking specifically about if you want to use deep learning, AI-focused approaches for the task, can you use that in MATLAB? The answer is yes. Okay, you can use, you can build deep learning, machine learning models in MATLAB to do the task. In the competition task 2, we are not requiring you to use deep learning or machine learning broadly. We're not requiring machine learning, but if you choose to use machine learning, that is fine. Okay. So yes, I think that answers your question. MATLAB has the pipeline to allow you to build and develop machine learning models. And you can do that if that is your approach you choose to use. But we're not requiring that. So other teams, just take notes. You don't need to do that, but if your team loves to do that, that is very good. We can encourage you to do that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I realized that we were not translating all of that. Jesslyn, are you there? Maybe just for the benefit
I'm there. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. For the benefit of those who need a translation, the first question was specifically asking about ROS distribution and about Ubuntu distribution, whether we have to use a particular one, the Ubuntu 20.04. The answer is yes. We would strongly recommend that you use the Ubuntu 20.04 because that is what we support.
Ok, la première question était de savoir si on pouvait utiliser d'autres versions de Ubuntu pour tourner la solution. Alors, la recommandation ici est de tourner sur Ubuntu 20.4 parce que tout a été testé dessus et c'est ce qui est recommandé pour la compétition.
All right, the second question is about whether you can build machine learning models, a machine learning solution in MATLAB for task 2. The answer is yes. MATLAB has the pipeline and the support for building machine learning models, so you can do that. You're not required to use machine learning for this task, but if it's something you choose to use, we're happy to see you build that skill.
La deuxième question était de savoir si on pouvait utiliser des modèles de machine learning ou d'apprentissage profond pour résoudre le problème. Et la réponse est oui. Donc, si vous comptez le faire, vous pouvez le faire. Et ce qui est recommandé, c'est d'utiliser MATLAB pour la suite. Mais on vous affirme aussi que MATLAB a toute l'infrastructure pour vous permettre de développer la solution de machine learning dessus. Donc, faites comme vous voulez.
Thank you, Jesslyn. There's one thing I wanted to point out in the documentation page. Last time we did not provide support for French, which we apologize that we did not provide enough support for French. This year, we have all the pages in French. So if this is English, if you come to this side, you can actually change from English to French. So if you click here, you get French. So you get French. You can, the pages are all also translated in French. Okay, my Google Translate is trying to change it, but we have provided support in French as well. Okay, so for our French-speaking French-speaking group, we provide it so that you can engage as much as possible. And if there are any other language barriers that you are experiencing, please let us know. We want to make sure that this is equitable for all participants, irrespective of your preferred language.
Voilà. Une dernière chose, c'était que nous nous excusons parce que l'année passée, les années antérieures, il n'y avait pas de support pour la langue française. Alors, une amélioration cette année, c'est que vous avez dans le coin supérieur droit un bouton qui vous permet de traduire automatiquement le challenge. Donc, si vous avez d'autres difficultés concernant la langue, s'il vous plaît, faites-les nous savoir, comme ça on aura à les résoudre.
Thank you. The last thing I'm going to say is some parts of our documentation website are still under development. So please, if you find any links that are not working, or if you find that something is not complete, please just put a message in Slack and we will address it immediately. All right, so we are still actively developing everything on this page. So please bear with us. And if you find any errors, please send that as a message to us on Slack so that we can fix it immediately. Thank you.
Voilà. Une autre chose, c'est que le website ici est toujours en cours de développement. Donc, si vous remarquez qu'il y a une erreur ou encore qu'un lien ne fonctionne pas, nous vous prions de nous faire signe dans la chaîne Slack pour nous permettre de corriger cela le plus rapidement possible.
All right, so that is all. Thank you all so much. Thank you so much, Jesslyn, for filling in. Andrea, thank you for being here to translate. So thank you, everybody. That is the end for today. If you are interested in getting support for setting up your PC, we'd like you to start working on setting up your PC as soon as possible, meaning right away. And if you need support for that, we will be running another workshop same time next Saturday that we can answer any questions that people might have or any challenges you are facing. Okay, so please start working on getting your PC set up. Go on the website and check what are the different approaches you can use. And if you have questions, ask on Slack. And also you can come next Saturday to ask your questions and get help in real time. All right, so yeah, Jesslyn, thank you.
OK, donc une dernière chose, c'est que nous vous recommandons de commencer directement les configurations sur votre ordinateur. Donc, si vous avez des difficultés, nous aurons une prochaine session le samedi prochain. Donc, vous serez les bienvenus à apporter toutes les difficultés que vous avez rencontrées. Merci.
All right, so thank you all so much. This is officially ended. I'm going to stop sharing now.